So I think we can go ahead and get started. I'm mainly here to welcome Justin to the first class on behalf of the center. We're very happy that he's able to teach for us. Justin has both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in Buddhist studies, and he has worked for donor services in FPMT, and also served as an SPC within FPMT as well. So he's extremely well qualified to be teaching all of us this course. So we're really delighted, very happy that he was able to accept our invitation. And Justin, if it makes sense, when we screen share the prayers, if you wanted to lead the refuge in Bodhichitta, and then the center could offer the mandala, if that makes sense to you, or...
Sure. Yeah, we can do it that way. Yeah. Great. And I thought maybe before we start with the prayers, maybe we can just take a couple minutes just to kind of arrive and settle.
Sure.
So yeah, maybe let's just take a couple minutes just to kind of give a little gap between our days and come into the class, come into this shared virtual space. If we can just kind of let go of any judgments or tension we've had for our day. Any sense of anticipation, worry about what's to come this evening, things to do. Just giving our mind permission for a little space. Relax and just be. We can tune into the feeling of the movement of the breath in our bodies. Feeling of our bodies sitting on our cushion or chair. Feet, legs. If you like, allow the exhale to be a relaxation breath, allowing the body and mind to kind of sink and settle into it, into the present. And if you like, you're welcome to join in reciting the Refuge and Bodhichitta Prayer as we begin the class. And if anybody's not familiar, this is a basic Buddhist aspiration, an aspirational prayer for awakening our full potential, remembering, reconnecting to our potential and our true nature, a wish for us to fulfill and awaken that full nature into our potential. Go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings.
And I'll just offer a mandala on behalf of the center for auspiciousness. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. O holy and perfect pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kvam Niryata.
Thank you, Venerable.
So, hi everybody, welcome. And thanks for joining tonight. So tonight is the first class of the Mind and Its Potential course, which is the first course in the FPMT's Discovering Buddhism program. And anyone's not familiar with the Discovering Buddhism program, it's 13 modules or 13 courses. Which this one's the first, and there's different topics progressively going through the different kind of aspects of the Tibetan Buddhist path, or the Buddhist path according to the Tibetan tradition. I really love this topic, so it'd be a treat to kind of explore these teachings together with you. I've done this particular course a few times in Denver, elsewhere. So this is the first course. So Lamsa Rinpoche and FPMT Education put this course as the first in the Discovering Buddhism program. And then in the kind of traditional stages of the path that were kind of presented in Tibet, the first topic wasn't the nature of the mind, it wasn't the mind and its functions. And I think one interesting thing for us to have this as a first course is that Western models of mind are different from the Buddhist models of mind. And it's the kind of who we are. The mind is it's kind of central to our experience. And it's, it is the path, the path the path becomes our mind. Our mind, ourselves kind of unify with the path over time. So this course will be looking at the kind of Buddhist understanding of the nature of the mind. So what it is. It's kind of inherent or fundamental or innate qualities, basic qualities. We'll look at how the mind functions. So this will include looking at kind of the categories of conceptual and non-conceptual. What conceptual and non-conceptual experience are. It's also kind of a different kind of where the Buddhist model maybe differs from the Western. And within then we'll also look at kind of our immediate the different functions of mind. So we'll look at the immediate experience of the mind. So kind of our immediate sensory kind of experience of the mind before the conceptual filtering and the mental labeling. We'll also look at kind of some Buddhist maps of emotions. So in the categories of wholesome emotions, destructive emotions, and neutral emotions. And then we will look at approaches to working with the mind. So what we're doing with meditations, different types of meditation, how the mind transforms over time. And in different ways we can kind of relate to or work with our experience. And then how that fits into the path in terms of the Indo-Tibetan tradition. And within our tradition, we talk about kind of the sutra path and the tantra path and how those kind of work with mind, understand mind. And then also within that, and this kind of goes within the undermines nature, the Buddha nature, this idea Tathagata, this Buddha potential that Buddhists speak about, and what that is, and how it exists. And some of the meditation practices for the class, there's a meditation on equanimity. There's a meditation practice for touching into the mind's clarity, basic clarity. There's a visualization practice that is very helpful for kind of bridging a connection with our Buddha nature. So we'll meditate on, we can try meditating on the kind of imagination practice involving the Buddha and ourselves to kind of make some contact, inspiration with our Buddha potential. And then there's another interesting meditation on the continuity of mind, the kind of endless or infinite kind of continuity of the mind from the Buddhist perspective, and the contemplation for considering that and kind of checking that out within our own experience and seeing where that leads. So maybe go ahead and start with the Buddhist understanding of the nature of the mind. Does anybody want to try their hands? How would they understand? You understand what the mind is? You could try to define mind.
Oh,
Patrick?
I'll give it a try. Just the other night, I was listening to a Tibetan Buddhist. I don't know how you would say it, like a teaching from the Santa Fe, from KSK, and the fellow went over. I'm not claiming I know that much about it, but he mentioned three types of realities, but that's probably not what you're talking about. Not mine, but I'm just saying what I've been learning so far. It's bits and pieces, so forgive me. But that's probably not, yeah, I'm sorry. You're saying about mine, so yeah, it's okay. It's I'd let someone else try. I thought I'd give it a shot, but thank you.
It's a little bit of a trick
It's
question.
Yeah.
No way.
It is.
That's interesting. What is your mind? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to claim to say that I know, but just what I've been learning so far. So yeah.
Right on. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and Barbara, did you want to say?
My understanding, again, from the classes, the teachings that I've had, is that mind is clear and all-knowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and Jeremy?
I mean, take a stab at the difference between mind and brain comes to mind for me. That, you know, kind of brain being kind of the neurons, firing, functioning, but mind being more like the consciousness, kind of separate from that. That's my stab at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anybody going to add anything else?
Could be unrelated,
I
but
think
Corley, maybe first.
sure.
Yeah.
Something I gathered from the teaching was sort of the difference between the gross body and its five senses and sort of the subtle body, and within that, the mind, intelligence, and ego, and variations between the three. Super vague share, but thought I'd give a stab at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Different kind of levels of subtlety in mind. Yeah. Patrick, did you?
Yeah. Maybe this is how my brain processes. I think in bits and pieces. But something else about, I guess, the mind is infinite within itself in the brain. When the mind goes on backwards and forwards, something to that extent. I'm kind of grasping at straws, but it's apart from the body, it goes on forever each way. But yeah, that's all. It's all safe for now. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So let's maybe perfect. Let's maybe start there actually. And yeah, thanks for everybody kind of putting in bits of the puzzle. Great shares and contributions. So there's this issue of what causes awareness. So what causes us to be aware? And from what I've understanding from my limited like podcast level understanding of neuroscience. Neuroscience hasn't found the cause of awareness. We don't actually, scientific can't, it's hard, it's almost unenterable in a way, because I haven't been able to find a true cause. So like Jeremy was saying, like we have this amazing sophisticated map in terms of the relationship of subjective experience and how it affects the brain, or what part of the brain is activated. You feel something, think something, see something, so forth. But in terms of awareness itself, it's still very much a kind of a question mark. From the Buddhist point of view, what causes awareness is awareness. So this present moment that we're having, this moment of awareness that we have, the cause of it is the previous moment of awareness. And the reason this is said to be is what Barbara brought up with the clarity and knowing aspect. That the awareness itself isn't physical. Like Jeremy was saying, there's a consciousness, the brain is a physical organ. Is it fatty tissue, liquid, electricity, I guess, blood, I guess. But awareness itself isn't physical. It's a quality of has this quality of non-materiality or non-physicality, clarity, and knowing. So it clarifies, reflects almost like a mirror, and it has the capacity to know. That's what it does. And so if it's not physical, it's kind of, from Buddhist point of view, it's kind of absurd to say something physical caused it. It's like something completely different. So saying like a combination of liquid and electricity and fatty tissue causes some non-physical awareness, and it's kind of an absurdity from the Buddhist point of view. They're kind of looked at as two, it's inherently, you could say, separate phenomena. So there's the world of matter, and then there's the world of mind, from one Buddhist monk. Yeah, so what causes awareness to occur? It's a huge question. It's an amazing question to kind of consider. Yeah, and so because mind doesn't have a physical nature, or awareness doesn't have a physical nature, its cause has to be something like itself. So it would be the previous moment of consciousness. And in that moment, the cause of that moment's consciousness is the previous moment of consciousness. And that moment of consciousness is the previous moment. And so then, we can continue going back moment to moment to moment to the first moment of our life, this life. So the first moment of consciousness and awareness that we have. What caused that? And it would, same answer, it's just the previous moment. So, and that would be the moment before the first moment of awareness in our lifetime. Because again, if it's just the sperm and egg, those are just material phenomena, they wouldn't cause non-material awareness. Then they're just two kind of separate. So if we go to the moment right before this life, so the first moment of this, we say this life, or life, first moment of awareness of mind. And we know that babies in the womb are aware. So whatever that first moment of conception or whatever I want to say, the first moment of mind, the previous moment of the cause of that moment of mind goes into the previous, I mean, the moment before this life started. And then again, it's still this kind of causal, going back and back and back. And so if something physical doesn't cause awareness to arise, so what would cause the first moment of mind ever? So it's like, okay, fine, I can accept like past lives or whatever, maybe 1,000 of them or whatever, or okay, fine, 1,000,000. But like at some point, there's got to be a start. Like, so it's like, okay, let's go all the way back to that start, that first moment of my mind, 10 billion lifetimes ago, whatever I'm open to, which is inconceivable. And so it's the same situation. That moment had to be caused by something. Like for something just to come out of nothing is also an absurdity, because nothing is nothing. It's not a void, it's not space, it's not, it's literally nothing. So it's kind of an absurd idea. So that moment was caused from the previous moment, the mind. Yeah. And it goes in the opposite direction. So this is, Patrick, what you mentioned, the kind of endless kind of continuity of mind. The next moment is caused by the next moment. And because awareness isn't physical, its continuity can't be broken. It can't be ended. So our body has a lot of working pieces and working parts, and eventually, when these aren't serviceable enough, the body will eventually cease to function and move into dust eventually. And at some point, the body won't be serviceable to hold the mind. Won't be a serviceable vessel for the mind. But that clarity and awareness, since it's not caused by the body, it can't be ended by the body. So this kind of endless continuity of mind will continue. It will just, once the body can't hold it any longer, it just kind of that relationship eventually severs with the body, and then you'll have the next moment of awareness after this life, what we call this lifetime, and then that be the next moment, and then the next moment, and the next moment, and so forth. yeah, so what causes awareness is, again, is this kind of a profound kind of question and point. Because because mind causes mind, the continuity of mind isn't, it's just not very mystical, actually. It's just how it goes from the Buddhist point of view.
Are you talking about like a Big Bang or just the mind causes the mind?
Kind of both. So the Big Bang would be kind of considered concerning the physical universe, or so that would also still be kind of in the category of physical world. And from this point of view, again, there's like the kind of, there's like the causal evolution of the physical world, and then there's the causal evolution of mind, or of awareness. And yeah, Buddhists and Hindus would say there's also no beginning to the physical world either. So there's no beginning to mind, because that a beginning means something comes from the, so there, before the beginning there was nothing, absolutely nothing, and then without cause something happened. Yeah, which yeah, from the Buddhist point of view, would be kind of an absurd idea, because something not being caused by anything just doesn't, it goes counter everything we know of life. And yeah, I don't know, does that make sense, the idea of something and nothing? Yeah. So when His Holiness Dalai Lama was asked from scientists about did he accept the Big Bang, he kind of responded, which one? Yeah. So from the Buddhist point of view, there's a everything has a life cycle. So the universe, the Big Bang happens, the universe plays out. Eventually, there'll be an extinguishing, and then another Big Bang will happen, and then a kind of lifespan of the universe will play out. So that's one kind of topic, I guess you could say, of in terms of the mind's nature, that not the mere clarity and not in knowing, the mere clear and aware, clarity and awareness, clarity. So the clarity and the knowing is something that happens without effort. It's like, so we don't actually have to try. The mind just naturally, every nanosecond is clear, and it's aware. And the awareness doesn't, the knowing doesn't necessarily mean I know everything that we don't have to make effort, and like the mind just does that. Every moment of mind is doing that. Yeah. And kind of looking at this kind of basic functioning of mind, this basic nature of mind. Can be helpful to start to kind of pull back from the content of mind. So sometimes or most of the time, we're kind of involved in kind of working with the content of the mind. And we're not aware of the kind of basic backdrop of clarity and awareness, or clarity and knowing that everything in our experience is kind of arising from within. I like the analogy of like a movie screen. It's just a blank screen, and then on it can be dramas, comedies, horrors, and we can be kind of really kind of engrossed into the colors and movement and content and the story and the narrative of what's being projected onto the screen, and completely forget that there is a screen that is just on the screen. And completely forget about the screen, and then lights, the movie's over, lights go on. It's like, oh, there's just this white, this kind of blank screen there that was actually there the whole time.
I think I was going to say maybe it's a reach, but I remember a long time ago in college, a classmate of mine in the one physics class I ever took, we're talking about Big Bangs, and she was kind of over enthusiastic. She said, "What's outside the Big Bang?" And it's kind of like you're saying with the white screen. Maybe it's just nothing. I don't know. It's just interesting to talk about anyway. But I thought I'd bring it up. Sounds a little bit like that. So yeah, that's all.
Sort of interested, the comedy, the drama, the projections, the mind content that are, portrayed on this blank screen. Those are sort of conditions or viewpoints or things kind of gathered throughout our childhood that have kind of created patterns. Is that sort of a solid analysis of kind of what this mind content, like you mentioned, was?
Yeah. We'll get into that in later sessions in the course. So we all have different movies, and some of them are nice. Sometimes we go through rough patches. Production companies are putting out some good movies for a while, maybe not so good for a while. There's some running themes, sequels and trilogies, and so forth. And so we use the word meditation. That's been the translation used for the Sanskrit word bhavana. It'd be interesting to see this word sort of become more familiar in Buddhist communities. Bhavana, which translated as meditation, has kind of a meaning of like of cultivation. It's more like to cultivate. And in Tibetan, the word for meditation is gom, which also kind of has more of a literal meaning of to become familiar with or familiarize. So when we're practicing bhavana or gom or meditating, we're cultivating or familiarizing ourselves with. And it's interesting, like you go, yeah, I'm going to go do my cultivation practice this morning before work, or I'll do my cultivation practice tonight before bed. It's interesting because meditation sometimes maybe sometimes might miss the meaning. We're like, oh, I'm going to meditate. It's like, okay, what does that mean? What am I doing? So the cultivation, the meditation practice, the path, what we're cultivating is there's a few things and how we can relate to our movies. So there can be cultivation of the familiarity or familiarizing ourselves with the screen and not the movies. So starting to familiarizing ourselves with the basic nature of mind. And we can do that through meditation practice gradually over time. And some we might get little hits when we have a gap, we'll follow our breath and have a gap between thoughts. Or, I've been just so frustrated and kind of confused with whatever has been kind of going on in my system for a while. And I just sit down and sit down and meditate, and it just kind of just passes. And I didn't actually, I feel more like it just passes and sky's clear. I feel more kind of connected, myself, more clarity, peace, that like obstacle just kind of cleared. And we can start to, that's the basic nature of my mind. And so there's these metaphors of the nature of mind, of like being sky-like, being like an ocean, oceanic, kind of vast, clear, pure, non-conceptual space. And so one of our cultivations we can, over time, is start to kind of touch into that kind of deeper aspect of the mind, and not just the content itself. And then, but that doesn't always work. And that's not what's always needed in the situation. Because maybe some things do need to be listened to. Maybe some things need to be responded to with some sort of emotion, so that would be like more of like a letting go kind of quality, just letting go, kind of coming out of a conceptual framework and more of a non-conceptual, more of immediate space. But then there might be, we might need to, like if we're having a lot of frustration or anger in our system, and it's kind of our operating mode a lot. We may need to kind of counterbalance it with what they call an antidote, or like a countering emotional energy. So maybe loving kindness. I need to do some loving kindness practice for myself. Maybe I need to do some loving kindness practice for others. To start to foster wholesome emotions, because wholesome emotions create a stable kind of basis and container for us to kind of go into the deeper. So in order to realize the depth of the nature of our minds, depths of ourselves, we need to create kind of a wholesome, stable basis for it. So compassion, love, patience, easygoingness, like kind of letting go of some of our obsessiveness or control. Those are functions of mind, or kind of emotions in the mind that are actually conducive for us to realize the nature of it. And that would depend. That's a kind of a personal journey on what's needed for us, and at what time, and so forth. Some people might need more compassion practice. Some people might need to spend time on patience, or sometimes the compassion might need to be directed towards oneself for a while. It might be useful to direct it outwards towards others, and get out of ourselves and broaden our hearts. Yeah. We're about halfway. Does anybody need a break? Couple minute break? Bathrooms? Sure.
When you say kind of cultivate this wholesome space, is creating or putting kind of the mind on the object of patience, loving kindness, is that the sort of awareness or kind of space you mentioned creating, is that kind of the path conducive to cultivating those, kind of creating that as the object of a session of meditation? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, so in a meditation session, you might do some what's called like calm abiding or settling practice. So practice to settle the mind. So you use an object, maybe often it's the breath, or you can use the body, sensations of the body, and kind of settle the mind. So there's some of that natural clarity starts to come out, some of the disturbances, and there's just a little bit, it's just a little bit more depth in our presence. It's almost like a presencing practice. And then there's practices where you can specifically to cultivate compassion or to cultivate loving kindness. So for loving kindness practice, you could you imagine yourself sitting in front of you at a certain difficult time, or someone that's close to you, or a stranger, or lots of people, you can then spend time, and so then your object of focus becomes the contemplation. So that the goal of that particular practice is to generate feelings of love and thoughts of love, and to kind of steep in it. It's almost like you're kind of marinating that love. So you kind of generate it, bring it up into your system so you feel love. So you're consciously spending 5-10 minutes to immerse yourself in the feeling of love, quite specifically. And so you might generate that on the basis of yourself or someone else, and you send that love. And so just like how your focus was on the breath, now your focus is on that feeling of love. So once it's up, when it's in your system, it's present and flowing, or present in your mind, then you just stay with that for a while. And that's where the cultivation or familiarization is. Like you're kind of creating that propensity and kind of vitality of love, and the ability and familiarity with how to generate it, how to bring it up, and and how to stay with it. Yeah. And then usually at the end, you might just kind of let that go and come back to the present moment, come back to the room, and so forth. And so there's different meditations you can find for specific cultivating. Just different. Yeah, so going back to the mind's nature, so that mere clarity and knowing, it's not physical. That means it's not obstructed. It's nature. Yeah, and it has this kind of sky-like quality, kind of openness. So it's mere clarity and awareness, which is the backdrop of kind of from which everything arises. Is openness. And I was thinking, so there's a suggestion in kind of entering Buddhist study or any studies, just having an open mind in the conventional sense. Because being open-minded is kind of generally a good thing in most cases. I guess maybe all cases. In sense of having an open, inquisitive attitude, towards exploring things. But the Buddhist point of view of mind, the open-mindedness actually goes beyond the conventional open-mindedness. We're actually trying to become open-minded in like the inconceivable way, like completely open-minded, like this kind of open awareness that's not just open-minded in the kind of normal sense, but just like this vast openness, like the quality of awareness once it's opened to its nature is this kind of vast, that clarity and awareness once when it's fully awakened has this kind of quality of unimpeded vastness and awakened knowledge. Yeah. And love, unconditional love and compassion are ever present as well. Thoughts? What we've been talking about so far? Questions?
Justin, is there a Sanskrit term for unconditional love, or something? I don't want to like encapsulate it, but is there like a Buddhist term or Pali or something? Since
I think Maitri.
Maitri kind of like. Okay.
Yeah, Maitri might be, let's say, unconditional love or friendliness. Maitri.
I'm sorry.
Maitri, Maitri.
Thank you.
It's typically called, kind of loving kindness is usually the translation.
Okay.
Justin,
I
I
don't.
have
That's right.
Okay.
Barbara, yeah.
okay. I just have a question.
Mhm.
The mind is not the brain. I don't understand what when our body is functioning, what attaches the mind to our body? Why does our mind not just periodically leave? Not just like after death experiences that some people have, but just like tonight, why wouldn't my mind just like, what binds it to my body? What is that connection? I don't know why I think about that, but I think about it a lot.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Question. Why? So from the tantric model of mind and body, the kind of tantric sciences, the mind, the subtlemost mind resides in the heart chakra, in the center of the heart. And let's see. And that happens kind of at the early formation of this life. As to why, I don't know why it would resides in the heart chakra. So okay, so when we die, the body is dead, or it's done functioning, and the mind separates. Because we're habituated to embodied experience, having a body, there's this kind of karmic energy, karmic mental energy, or kind of mental propensity that propels us to do it again, to kind of can keep it kind of take another form. And that drive, that kind of instinct, that kind of karmic drive, is what propels us to our consciousness to kind of merge with a suitable host. So that would be the sperm and egg of our next parents. Yeah, and so then we relive the kind of body experience, life, based on that kind of karmic habit, or kind of karmic propensity or disposition, or, force. Yeah. And they say so it gets rooted in the heart chakra, and there's it's kind of tangled and knotted up and kind of tight. So there's this like Buddha nature, the subtle consciousness that's in the heart chakra, and the heart chakra itself is all kind of tightened up just from our karmic situation, almost like our karmic traumas, you could say. There's this tightening up. So yeah, maybe that's why it doesn't. There's this karmic force and connection to be in this body that we're habituated to. And I guess for some people, there might be interruptions. I met a friend in college who was just sleeping one night and just had this really intense experience where he was out of his body, and it wasn't a dream, and he never he was just an ordinary bloke from Kansas. And that's what he ended up going to Naropa and exploring meditation. So I tried to make sense of what had happened to him. To hear stories like that where there is some sort of out of body experience, but generally, probably maybe there's just like a karmic habituation that we're just used to centralizing in ourselves in this particular way. Yeah. I don't know if that made any sense at all. Yeah.
Justin, I that does, because I'm like what Barbara was saying. It's not crazy at all. I've been in some trauma therapy for a while, and relate some things. It's not too personal or anything at all, but my therapist will say to me, you've had premonitions, and I'm like, oh, that can't be. But she said it's actually more common than you realize. I'm not saying it's relating to Buddhism, but as you just talked about your friend, it makes sense to me. But yeah, it's kind of like, it's mind blowing. But yeah, I mean, it's, as my therapist said, it's more common than you realize. But that's what I'm going to say. Like your friend, it's kind of like it takes you way by surprise. So that's all I can say. But it's probably. And just on that, I mean, it's totally appropriate. I guess I was interested at one point in the Tibetan Buddhist. I've experienced a lot of trauma, especially early childhood, and it's one with the Tibetan Buddhist view is on it. But from what I've researched a little bit, it's just that it's a fact, it happened, and that's it. But I tend to think it's something else, but I don't know. Maybe it's part of my curiosity about Buddhism, but not all fit. But yeah.
Yeah. What else is coming up for people? Yeah, so Lama Yeshe would always love the term clean clear. It's like keep your mind clean clear, or just touching to clean clear true nature. Yeah, and it's so interesting. So again, no matter what the movie is, no matter whatever is going on with us, the nature of that experience at its depth is just mere clarity. Yeah.
Justin, it's Barbara again. I've just been thinking, the mind, its nature is open, it's clear, it's all of the things that we've been discussing, but then it's also the mind that clouds it. And and I know we just have one mind, but it's like there are two different minds. The innate, the mind that is pure and vast and open and all of those things. But then also the mind is what causes our delusions and causes all the clouding of that mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of layers of mind. So the Buddhist model, you know, the Western model, we talk about conscious and unconscious in some models of mind, you know, the more traditional Freudian, Jungian kind of conscious and unconscious. The Buddhist point of view, it's almost the opposite. So what we would call conscious and unconscious in the Buddhist model of mind is kind of the opposite. So our day-to-day mind is more unconscious. It's kind of coarser. It's like sensory experience is more of a coarser level of mind. So it's busy. There's a lot of kind of push and pull, kind of attraction, repulsion, numbness. We're just kind of bouncing off of phenomena. You know, what we see every moment, or you know, it's like 3 million bits of information or something like that, and our mind, our brain doesn't, operates a very small capacity. So the kind of sensory, our day-to-day sensory world of thoughts, emotions, reactions, distractions, and so forth is more of an unconscious state of being from the Buddhist point of view. And from the Western model, in a way, that would be kind of more of our conscious life. Buddhist point of view is more of unconscious, because it's more reactionary and like you said, kind of clouded, because we're so fused and kind of identified with the content and not the nature of the content. And we're taking it seriously, and there's tension, and this thing happened, and oh, that's really important. This thing's not important. There's all this kind of reactivity happening. So then, when we sit meditating, we're maybe spending time to kind of detach from that and get some space from that, to start to cultivate a deeper quality of mind. So starting the qualities of love and compassion and so forth are actually more kind of deeper levels of mind and qualities of mind. And then we refine that until it's where we're starting to go much more deeper, to where the clarity starts to shine, or we're starting to familiarize and kind of dwell in that basic clarity, and our presence and attention is actually with what we're with. So it's much more, there's much more presence of mind. And then we use that to see into the depths of the mind's nature. And so then we can start to penetrate and find that true nature of mind and come out of more of the kind of discursive content of the more superficial mind of our day-to-day life. So that's why people sit still for long periods of time and look within and start to cultivate stability, start to cultivate clarity, start to cultivate peacefulness and kind of mental balance, and depth of attention. And then that allows us, when we put our mind onto something, then we can really go deep with it. So we really can go deep with love. We can really go deep with emptiness, the mind's empty nature, that kind of empty, open sky, quality of sky-like quality of mind. And there's paths and practices to work. Slowly, we start to kind of gather ourselves and kind of stuff along the path, and eventually, like for instance, your object of focus would move from the breath into that kind of spacious sky-like clarity of mind. And that would be your object of meditation. So you would spend time familiarizing and cultivating that until eventually you see the mind's infinite nature, that kind of empty nature of mind, where there is nothing to fix on. Mind has no color, it has no shape, it has no findable essence. And then because our attention and presence is so powerful at that point, the impact of that insight can be very, very profound until eventually it's irreversible. And then you awaken to that. You see directly, powerfully, deeply, experientially, not without any intermediary. And so we'll start to like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then we'll get a little taste of it and we'll kind of get the gist of it. And then we slowly kind of deepen our understanding and get a little taste of that along the way until eventually it starts to broaden and deepen, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because it's in terms of the functioning, how the mind functions, from the Buddhist point of view, our ordinary kind of uncultivated mind is more coarse, superficial, and unconscious, because and we can see that in our day, like a lot of our reactions and our thinking, like I can't just sit down and decide now I'm not going to think or now, or I'm never going to react that way ever again. You know what I mean? And that's a sign that we're already operating in a kind of unconscious, kind of cloudy kind of. We're not aware of the mechanics of what's happening in the moment.
That was super helpful for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Justin, we have been talking about the material brain and versus the mind or awareness. And I think, at least I've always thought about this awareness coming from my brain or from my head. And, you mentioned that, when I think about prostrations, they think about body, speech, and mind seems to be more the heart. And you said it's resides in the heart chakras. Is that connection not even exist in the kind of Tibetan view of the mind, that the idea that it's connected in with the brain? Is that not even associated? Does that make sense? It seems like it's not even thought of as being connected to the brain necessarily, more in the heart, or as you said, nowhere.
Yeah, there's definitely a deep relationship with the mind and the brain. So I don't. Like the findings of neuroscience that are obvious and true, there's no, I would say from Buddhist point of view, no problem with any of that, because again, it's more neuroscience is finding how the bodies respond to mental activity. Maybe vice versa too. Maybe there is brain activity, like injuries or different. It can go vice versa as well. It's just not the cause of mind. And the kind of in the tantric sciences, like the most subtle kind of mind energy, I guess you could say, or is it's kind of in the heart chakra. There's also a brain chakra, There's this crown chakra, there's toe chakra. So there's still a relationship there. It's just not causal. Because I think, in the West, we think our brain is the mind. We have no clue what's going on in terms of what causes awareness. I remember hearing this, the neuroscience, brilliant, amazing neuroscience. He's also a neurosurgeon. And he's like, if we're going to be honest, we have no idea like what causes consciousness. Because there's no physical, it's not physical, so it's not really physically measurable. So it's a problem. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll say, so with some of the great meditators who die, I don't know if people have heard of this. This will be the last thing we can finish up. They can stay in meditation in that subtle awareness many days. And there was a Lama who died last year, I think, and they were able to kind of hook up. They got a crew. They found out he was in the meditation post the clear light meditation after he died, and His Holiness has been working with scientists to try to get measure people, that scientists there while that's happening before it's over with. And I think he was in that meditation for like 2 to 3 weeks. And typically the heart stays a bit warm and the body doesn't decay, but the brain, there's no brain activity, no breathing, the clinically dead Western model, but the yogi's still meditating. I think with the Karmapa, 16th Karmapa died in the 80s at a Chicago hospital, and they brought the doctor in after the third day, and they had him put his hand over the Karmapa's body's heart, and you could still feel heat there. So we're at time. Guess I usually email. How we do this? I usually email. We'll do it by email, like the next day of readings for that week. How do you all do it usually with Discovering? Do you just have a link to the?
Yeah, people can just be aware that they can always go to the event page, and we will have a link there with a folder that they can access. So anyone can just always.
Okay.
You just send that to me, and then I will do that.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I can send you a note or something that can be uploaded into a folder and say, "Oh, this week's readings is that," or. Okay, super. Yeah, and so some may have experienced already Buddhist tradition of dedicating. So dedicating any positive potential or any seeds, good qualities that may have been planted in us tonight. And it's an act of generosity and expansion, this offering that for the greatest good, offering whatever little seeds of insight or wisdom may have planted in our mind stream. Can go on and influence and ripen so that we wake into our full potential. So we can read out this prayer if you like together. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhichitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has risen not diminish, but increase more and more. And offering prayers for the longevity of founders of FKMT, spiritual director, Lama Zopa. If you'd like to join, you're welcome to. You who pull the subduers more away, serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine. Masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels. Savor myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. For His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors for those wanderers in far off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us and intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request. O Lama, please, please live long. Beloved teacher, leading your students toward wisdom and compassion, explaining through exacting discernment steps of the graduated path. You're the unequal God. Please live a long and stable life. Okay, thanks so much. Happy New Year, everybody. Best wishes for the new year.
Thanks, Justin.